And then there's new media popped up there, and also you can see a little below that, visual and creative arts. I got a lot of questions. People came up to me and said, humanities computing, like, what's that? They keep popping up, but what is that? So that was kind of interesting, and so I guess a point of departure from my presentation today is kind of pose the question, how is it that in 2006, kind of unbeknownst to the group that was doing all this, these fields start popping up? Well, I'm an historian, and so I'll put a little historical context to this, and in fact there's some good reasons for it. You reach back into the Canadian experience, and even though you've heard me say a lot that Canada was really an intellectual colony in many ways when we thought about our universities as late as the 1960s, almost all our curriculum material was imported, almost all profs teaching in Canada at that time had gotten graduate experience elsewhere, even whether or not they were Canadian born. So it was really during the 1960s and then into the 70s that Canada started to develop a kind of made-in-Canada research community across the fields. But one of the early ones, in fact, had to do with computer-based scholarship at that time. And it was in disciplines even like history, it was certainly in literature and so on. Through the 1980s, associations get set up and so on. So there was a long, important history to this through the 1970s, through the 1980s, and then in the 1990s, there were a series of initiatives that really pushed this forward. Some of you may remember the Data Liberation Initiative that really brought into our universities data through StatScan and so on that had not been readily available as it has been in the past. Other kinds of activities in terms of the idea to create research data centers on our campuses. There was a working group got together between SSHRC and StatScan on the advancement of research using social statistics and so on. And that led to the actual creation. And now there's a wonderful map across Canada showing on how many campuses and communities across the country, including here at UNB, that there is a research data center and so on. So I think if you kind of go through the genealogy of this, you can really understand, in fact, that Canada, even though domestically speaking in terms of research strength, it was really from the Massey Commission on, this thing started to be taken seriously, computerization and embracing the digital age. And we can link this to everything from Marshall McLuhan and on, but I think there's an important basis there. Obviously at SSHRC we're very proud of this in the sense of our role that we play, and not only in terms of getting involved, Data Liberation Initiative, research data centers and so on, but also in terms of thinking about the curriculum, thinking about training and so on. And I want to emphasize this a bit because that's one of the aspects I think of what we're up to today that I want to highlight is still something that needs attention. How are we in fact helping our students in terms of really getting the skills and so on that are necessary to take advantages of the potential of the age. So the data training schools get established and so on. But I think a really interesting turning point, September 2000, when there was a report to SSHRC's governing council, and I don't want to go through all this text too much, but basically there was clear recognition. And I quote here, the new information technologies represent one of the major impacts on humanities teaching and research. They also present an exciting opportunity for scholars, teachers, and students to become informed partners and innovators. And the key phrase here, I think, is to examine and interpret individuals and their cultures. Researchers currently use three fundamental kinds of digital information: images, text, and sound. And I think, my sense at least, is that kind of perception is really key. In other words, if you think about the social science humanities and you say, what are the social science humanities? And the easy way to think about this is our fields study people, human thought, human behavior. And we do it in the past and present, always with a view to making a better world. And if you think about that, you think about our fields and what we're actually up to, and then you think about, well, how do we come to grips with all that? What are the expressions? What are the sorts of ways in which we can penetrate that? You think about images, text, and sound, and we could go on in terms of many other aspects of this. That is so interesting. And I think that led to a program that I know many of you have participated in and contributed to. And I think the image, text, sound technology has certainly been one of the initiatives at SSHRC that really allowed a robust embracing of the digital age in terms of all kinds of different digital data, ranging across the fields, bringing into this the numbers, the words, the images, the sounds, and on and on. And I think that this background is really key to understanding. And if you go through the list developed after that 2000 report, and you think of all these topics, electronic editing, publishing, e-literature, web programming, the imaging, computer gaming, and so on, it was really wonderful in terms of anticipating what during the last decade have really come at the heart of many of our activities. And I think my sense at least is that scholars' ability in Canada to embrace this new reality is really at the heart of it. Secondly, I want to emphasize as well the really important training aspects that kept going. And the Digital Humanities Summer Institute that Ray Siemens and the team lead at the University of Victoria, in which we're obviously pleased to support, that attract folks from around the world each summer to an intensive kind of boot camp. And that has played a key role in terms of Canadian leadership, in terms of really helping advance the agenda in this world. And I think I can't underestimate the extent to which these kinds of initiatives have really helped, I think, across Canada and internationally contribute to, thank you very much, to contribute to an enriching of this notion. So therefore, to me, when I saw this in 2006, you know, I said that makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense, and in fact, at an international level, Canada really does have something important to contribute. I also want to emphasize how pleased we are at SSHRC to have the participation of internationally recognized leaders who have bring together in kind of different ways the kind of background that is really helping move this forward. Jerry Sinclair, many of you know and have met and so on, and she tells the story. Here we have a prof, PhD in Renaissance drama. She's at home with a younger child, and they're messing around with Commodore 64 and so on. And she's looking at the programming of this and so on. And she's, you know, doesn't know anything much about this, but she's looking at it and she says, you know, the way you know, the kind of programming go basic at the time, she said it's kind of like a sonnet. Kind of repeats nicely and so on. And she quickly sees that what was going on was not simply the technology per se, but it was about the content. And she realized that by writing sonnets, she could change the content on these pretty, what we consider rudimentary machines right now. And through her children, she actually moved into the digital age in a very, very significant way. As you know, she stepped aside from academia, went on to build a number of companies, Encompass Labs, for example, content management, one of the very early initiatives, ends up getting sold to Microsoft, and she goes on to earlier career and continues with Microsoft and so on. And I think it's such a wonderful illustration and personification, in a sense, of how social science humanities, the importance of content, what we come to call digital literacies and so on, are really starting to determine and play a key role in terms of the digital age, and I would argue explains why computerization has become so important across our society, whether it's the economy on campus wherever you look. And again, to emphasize the education part of this, I think it's very, very important that Jerry played a key role. She was the founder, really, of an innovative master's program in Victoria that brought together the different campuses and so on, a master's program that invited a diverse range of students to come together to really focus on digital media and how we can really exploit the potential of this new approach. And I think that's really, really important.